first, you guys. You guys, I got my tank on. Hi, everyone. So if anyone, this replay will be posted on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. So if anyone is watching from YouTube and watching the replay, welcome. Please feel free to join my group, which will be in the description of the video. So this live is going to be, first part, it's two parts. First part is going to be Dante's story and basically like our experience or my experience with autism with Dante and his story. I've got like his baby picture basically over here with me. I have my notes. I've done this. This is our fourth year doing it. However, I still get really nervous for this live, like really nervous for this live. I think just because it's so personal. So I have notes that to make sure like that I don't go off topic and miss my point. Okay, so the first part of the live is going to be Dante's story. So what I have experienced so far. This is Dante here, for those of you that don't know. This is an old picture of him. He's actually going to be 8 in May, so next month. I think he's maybe like 3.5 here. So he's a lot older now, but I love this picture and I use it every year, so I figured why not? We'll keep it. Some people are familiar with that one. So Dante was born like any other normal, I guess, or typical child. He was like 6 pounds 4 ounces. He was 19 inches long. Delivery was, I guess, what you would explain a first delivery. It was rough, but nothing out of the ordinary. Everything seemed fine. So as he developed, his development was 100% where it was supposed to be when he was an infant. So he, sat up at the right time. He was making eye contact. He was smiling. He was laughing. We had no problems in development when he was a baby. So he walked, he crawled, he did everything he was supposed to do, like he was supposed to. And then you kind of hit that 18-month checkup point. And we went in, and that's where they start doing like the questionnaire or that checklist that you have to fill out that a lot of you are familiar with. And in there it asks, how many words are they saying? And it starts asking like these developmental questions, which he was our first. So I was reading this thinking, like, he's not really talking. Is he really supposed to be like talking at this point? He seems like he's still a baby. So, hey, Sonia. Thanks, Cara. So I really didn't think anything of it, but I filled it out accurately. So when we got in there, the pediatrician went through the checkup and then just referred him to speech therapy. So at the time, I thought it was ridiculous because I'm like, he's 18 months old. Like, why the heck would I put him in speech therapy? I mean, he's a baby. Everyone's like, he'll talk when he's ready. He'll talk when he feels like it. Don't worry about it. So I kind of ignored it for a couple months. And then I started thinking about it, and I started thinking, well, what's it going to hurt if we put him into speech therapy? It was free. It was early intervention, which we knew nothing about. And they just said they played with him basically and encouraged him to talk. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. Let's sign him up. So he didn't start that until about 20 months. He was 20 months old when he started speech therapy. Obviously, the speech therapist comes in, and then all of a sudden it just kind of sped up with his therapy. So it went from speech therapy, and then they're like, we want to refer him for occupational therapy, and we want to refer him for teacher services. We want to refer him for physical therapy. And I was like, whoa, like he's not even 2 yet. Like, this is crazy. But again, I started thinking it's not going to hurt him. They just come to the house and they play with him. So we went along with it. I still at the time really knew nothing about autism at all. However, I was Googling stuff because as soon as you Google like 18 months old speech therapy, the first thing that comes up is autism. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? But we didn't know anybody at the time that we knew that was on the spectrum. Dante was the first baby in our family. So we didn't have anyone really to compare him to. So we kind of just, and my whole family would say, don't worry, you didn't talk till you were 3. He's fine. He's just a little behind. So I was like, okay. So we went through the therapies, and then once he hit about 2.5, the in-home just wasn't working anymore. Like, they would come to the house and he just would get up and run off and run around, and he wasn't really paying attention. That's when I really started to notice the eye contact kind of started to disappear that he was doing when he was, like 10 months old. He wasn't really doing anymore. The babbling just turned into like constant like jabbering, but nothing of any meaning. He didn't say like mama, dada, like he wouldn't point, anything like that. So I asked if we could put him into a program instead, because I thought maybe he would benefit more if he was going to a program with other kids, where maybe he could mimic more positive behaviors there. So we got him into a program at 2.5. He went twice a week for like half a day, and he seemed to do really well. He seemed to be great. We would kind of like try to compare him to other kids, which was a huge mistake, but I would ask the therapists straight out, do you think he's autistic? Which is also like a huge no-no, don't ever do that. And they kind of would say, well, we don't really know, he's too young, we can't really tell, but we want to refer him for the full evaluation when he turns 3. So I was like, okay, you know, like at that point, again, he wasn't talking. We knew something was up, like with his development. It was mainly his communication. He didn't have any behavioral problems at the time, or really sensory issues, but he didn't communicate at all. Like he didn't even try to communicate. So we go to for this evaluation right before his 3rd birthday, and it's that 5-hour evaluation. We went to the Margaret Williams Center in Syracuse, New York, and we had like the worst experience ever there. They're supposed to evaluate one child at a time. They had him there with another child, and like some of his reviews were the other kid and not him. Like some of the therapists never even spoke to me, so it was kind of like a mess. It was a mess. So when the 5-hour evaluation was over, mind you, I'm also pregnant for Juliana. This was probably in like February before she was born. She was born in May. So I'm like pretty pregnant for her. And we go in to get the diagnosis, I guess, from the doctor. And he says to me, I'm so sorry. This is the worst possible news you could ever get, but your child has autism. And I was like, okay, well, that's not really like the worst possible news I could get, because he was very happy. He was physically very healthy. So I thought that the delivery of how he gave us the diagnosis made me feel like autism was worse than I thought it was, almost like a death sentence. So I immediately started panicking, and he started questioning the fact that I was already pregnant and asked me if I was pregnant with a boy or a girl, and I said a girl, and he said, well, if it makes you feel any better, girls are less likely to have autism. And I was like, who is this guy? Like, this is like the worst delivery I've ever experienced. Like, so we leave, and I'm already an emotional wreck because I'm pregnant and I'm about to have my 2nd child, and now I'm feeling like he made it sound like Dante's life was just over. Like that was it. Like, what are we gonna do? So now I'm leaving this center with this diagnosis, and I didn't really want to tell my family. I didn't really want to tell anyone yet, because we were still grasping onto these straws of like listening to other people that would say, oh, you know what? Like, I know, you know, my cousin has a son who didn't talk until he was 3, and he just woke up one day and started talking. So part of me would kind of just grasp on to like, well, maybe they were wrong, or maybe they mixed up his, you know, results with somebody else and he's not, and he's just behind. And we kind of didn't really want to accept it yet, even though like deep down we knew something was going on. We just didn't really want to fully accept this diagnosis. So I go home, and now I just start going crazy with researching, like nonstop research. Now also during this whole time, when I got pregnant with Dante, I had to leave my job because David traveled for work at the time, as he still does. So I had not been working at all this entire time. So now Dante's over the age of 3. I'm about to have our 2nd child. I'm not working. I've been home a lot, and my entire life revolved around Dante's special need. Like that's all it was. Like it was therapy after therapy, doctor's appointment after appointment, like evaluation, like YouTube videos, researching, like trying to figure out like what this diagnosis meant, because I knew nothing. So my entire life was kind of just like focused on what this was going to mean for his future, because the more research I did, the more you would read, like I would read things that would say you don't really know if they're going to talk until they're around the age 8 to 10. Some kids don't talk till they're 12. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like he's only 3 years old, and I can't even like picture him never talking. Some of the doctors would tell us there's a chance he may never talk ever. Like you may never be able to have a conversation with him. Like these are things that doctors were telling us. Obviously you read these things also, but it's like very hard to accept that you're never going to be able to like have a conversation or hear your child say mommy or daddy. Like, it's the worst feeling ever. So I'm trying to do everything I can to figure out to get him the best support that I could get him to make sure he can be the best person that he can be with the fact that he has this diagnosis. So in the meantime, like, LuLaRoe kind of starts coming along, like, from friends, just like signing me up and like adding me to these groups and stuff. And I kind of start shopping a little bit, and it was kind of like a little escape for me sometimes at night, or when I was like feeding Juliana and Dante was at program, I would kind of watch these lives and just kind of like get out of my world and get into this like LuLaRoe world that would kind of like pull me away from everything. And this was probably around like early spring of 2016 when I started kind of shopping LuLaRoe. So now Dante, when he turned 3 and we had the diagnosis, we put him into Main Street. So he went to Main Street. He was there 5 days a week. He did half-day programs, and I thought he was doing really well. He still wasn't talking, but he would take direction from the teacher. He would, you know, go in, he'd hang up his backpack, he'd go to the bathroom, wash his hands all by himself. So I thought he was doing really well, and then they sat us down that summer going into preschool and said, you know, Dante can't go here anymore. Like, we just can't support him, which I thought was insane. I was like, well, what do you mean? He doesn't have any behavioral problems, he just doesn't talk. Like, but they said he can't go here, we can't support him, sorry, you need to go somewhere else. So now I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like, now what? He also phased out of early intervention when he hit 3. So from 3 to 4, he was just floating around in the system, and we had no idea that we were still able to get any type of service, any other services, because again, we didn't know, we had no direction. So I start touring all these facilities, trying to find someplace that will accept him, because Main Street had basically put this label on him where they couldn't take him. That's how they said it, like they couldn't take him. So we kind of had back and forth fights with the district and got him into a place called Exploring Your World. It was on Court Street in Syracuse. I don't know if it's still there. This was obviously a few years ago. And they were phenomenal, like literally phenomenal. Thanks, Maria. I know, Kira, it was, the doctor should literally lose his license for saying that. But Exploring Your World was amazing. They were great. He went in, he didn't need a one-to-one. I mean, he did everything all the kids would do. We never, ever got a call or a report of him doing anything behavioral. Like, he was doing great. So we thought going into kindergarten, like, everything was going to be like fine and dandy. So now he's like 4.5, and he's about to go to kindergarten the next year, and we decide to get him tubes for his ears because he like was having a ridiculous amount of ear infections. And I mean, like, a lot. He had like 11 ear infections in like a 30-day period or something like that. So I had to fight for a referral for an ENT because they didn't want to give us that. Fight for that. Finally got him into an ENT. They're like, oh yeah, he needs tubes. We also need to do a hearing test because we don't know if maybe he's, you know, lost any of his hearing due to all these infections, and this could be affecting his speech therapy. So now we start researching like autism and tubes, and then of course you start hearing like, oh, my son got tubes and then he started talking like a week later. So now again, I'm kind of grasping onto that like little bit of hope that's like, well, maybe it's because he, you know, can't hear properly. Maybe it has something to do with that, and this is why he's not talking. So I'm kind of hanging on to that, and I'm thinking like he's going to wake up after getting these tubes and he's just going to start like talking, which I knew was a long shot, but when you're in that position, any little bit of hope that you can hang on to, you'll do it. Like, you don't even care if it doesn't even make sense. So we get him all ready. He goes in and he gets his tubes in, and that night, like, we go home, and hey, Jennifer. I know, Kira, it was horrible. It was like we've had like the worst experience ever. But we get home, and God, every year, you guys, every year, this is the part that I can never make it through without crying. So I'm gonna try. So we get home, and he's 4.5, still not talking. You know, doesn't say mommy, daddy, like really doesn't say any like productive words or communicate in any way. And I went and I tucked him in, and like I normally did, and I read him a book, and I kissed him goodnight, and I told him that I loved him like I normally did. And every time, and he looked at me and said, "I love mommy." Sorry. And that was the first time. That was the first time that he had said anything. And the first time I heard him say mommy, words that I thought I would never hear, and words that people told us we would probably never hear. And it was that moment when I looked at him and I just knew that there was so much more in his head that he just couldn't get out. And all the things that the doctors would tell us about that he might never do, I started to feel like they're wrong. You know, they're wrong. He's gonna do this. He's gonna talk. And it was literally the best moment of my life when he said that. I also didn't even know at the time, I know you guys, if he even knew what, like, that I was mommy. Like, I didn't know, you know, like, David and I have always been very adamant about treating him like we would treat any other child. Normal, typical, whatever you want to call it. And even despite all of the things that people would say and the constant comparing to other kids that we would do in the YouTube videos, I always felt like there was more in there, but I didn't know if part of me was hoping that and in denial, or if I really knew that there was more in there. So after that happened, it, like, something just kicked in me that was like, no, I'm not gonna accept this, that I'm not gonna accept that this is it. I'm not gonna accept that he's never gonna talk. I'm not gonna accept anything that the school system was telling me, like, nothing. Like, I was gonna go with my gut instinct, and that was that he needed to be around typical kids because I know that he knew what was going on. He just didn't know how to get it out. He just didn't know how to communicate it. So right after this happened, I was also just put myself in the queue for LuLaRoe. Like, just decided to do LuLaRoe because I started to feel like I didn't really have a purpose in life other than being, you know, this mom of a special needs child, because everything just kind of was always around the fact that we had a special needs child. Now, still, Dante is 4.5, and 90% of my family, none of my, like, most of my friends, other than my immediate close friends, nobody knew Dante was autistic. We didn't tell anybody. We didn't post it. We didn't share it. We stopped. As soon as he started showing, I guess, autistic behaviors, we stopped bringing him places, like family gatherings with extended family. We kind of, like, hid him. We kind of, like, we said that we were, like, protecting him, but I don't know if it was more we were protecting him or we were protecting us, because we didn't know how people were going to react. And everybody has their own opinion on autism in general, on whether or not they're born that way or it's something that you did when you were pregnant, which I think is absurd, but that's a whole nother thing. So we just didn't tell anybody. So I'm in the queue, and I'm getting ready to do LuLaRoe, and I thought, this is great. Like, this is something I can do from home. Like, I can still, you know, take care of Dante. I had Juliana at the time. She was maybe like 14, 15 months old, and I could work from home at night while they were sleeping. I'm like, this is perfect. So I start selling LuLaRoe. I start, you know, my group. And then all of a sudden, it was around October of 2016. So I had been selling Lula for only a couple months. And these leggings, I saw them on, like, a post somewhere. And if you guys remember back in 2016, finding two of the same print was impossible. Like the whole, like, hey, can you find this for me? That wasn't even, like, a thing back then. If you saw a print, the odds of you ever finding it for yourself were, like, next to none. It was like winning the lottery to get it. So I saw these leggings, and I started sitting on live sale after live sale, like, trying to get them, because I was like, oh my God, they're puzzle pieces. Like, come on, like, who doesn't want puzzle pieces that has a child that's on the spectrum. This is amazing. I sat on a live sale one night for 2.5 hours, and this retailer literally saved these leggings for the very end. It was literally the last item that she showed after a 2.5 hour live, and of course I didn't get them, and I was very upset. And I was telling one of my friends about it, which was a neighbor of mine, about these leggings, and she was also Lula at the time. She's actually one of the ones that kind of got me into Lula in the first place. And I start telling her and her husband about it, and I was like, yeah, I really want these leggings, like, you know, and they knew about Dante obviously, but not many people did. So they decided to go on this hunt. It was her husband's like friend, and her sister, people I didn't even know, went out on this hunt to find these leggings for me. Now again, back in 2016, finding a print that you're looking is almost impossible. So they find them in some ridiculous 3-piece outfit that was like $140 or something, and they buy this outfit just to get me these leggings. So they call me one night and tell me to come over, and they surprise me with the leggings. And I was so emotional when they did that, because I couldn't believe that people that didn't even know me had gone on this hunt for something so simple as like a pair of leggings, but they had so much more meaning that I was crying in their kitchen, like I couldn't even believe it. And it was at that moment where I was like, you know, this is definitely a company that I want to work with. This is like my calling, like this is my thing. Like I want to be able to bring that kind of joy and community and love to other people. As corny as it sounds, like it was that moment where I was like, yes, like LuLaRoe is it for me. Like I've found my purpose. Like I am something other than just a mom. Like I can bring this to other women. Like this is great. So I went to do a post on my page that night when I got the leggings, and that was the first time ever. Now Dante's over 4.5 now, that I had ever posted anything at all that he was autistic. And I posted it in my group. Some of you may even remember that were with me back then. I did a post in my group, and it was very scary for me to do it, but I was like, you know what, my group is private, it's closed. I didn't really know a lot of the people in it personally, and I felt comfortable sharing it. So I shared his story a little bit, and I shared the leggings, and I posted it. I had gotten so many private messages, like comments of people that were affected by autism, that were kind of in the same boat as me, or that had children on the spectrum that were older, that could kind of give me advice, give me guidance, special ed teachers, speech therapists, coordinators. I mean, you name it, you guys were in the group. And they sent me messages, they reached out to me, they gave me support. Like nothing I could have ever imagined at that moment, from just that one little post and from one little pair of leggings. So when all these messages started coming in, I started building these friendships with people that I didn't even know, which are you guys. And I started getting advice, and it definitely made me a better mom and a better person. And again, I know it sounds really cliche, but when that happened, it really opened my eyes to how many people out there are affected that feel alone, like I did. I felt so alone when we got this diagnosis, like, because I didn't know anybody that was in the same boat, and I didn't know anyone that I could go to. So having all of you guys reach out to me, it gave me that security blanket and that sense of love, community, and strength to make me a better mom for Dante. So when I tell people like, oh, LuLaRoe changed my life, I know people say it all the time and it sounds really, really corny, but it's 100% true for me, is that if it wasn't for this group and if it wasn't for you guys, there is no way that I feel like Dante would even be where he is today, because you gave me the strength and the knowledge to fight and to advocate for him. And I can't even thank you guys in words on what that's done for our family. And that's why when April came of 2017, I wanted to do my very first autism awareness legging drive to give back. Because now I felt I could talk about Dante, and I started opening up more. So when I did my first live like this in 2017, it was public, and that was the first time I had gone public like on my personal page where it was out there for everybody to see about Dante. And I had friends that knew me since I was in high school messaging me. I had family members, extended family members messaging me saying, we had no idea that Dante was autistic, and he was going to be 5. Like 5 years of his life, and we hid that from so many people. But once it was out there and I had the strength and the courage to share it, I didn't feel that I needed to hide it anymore. Like I felt more empowered to help other people that were probably felt the same way that I did. So this drive came up, and the outcome of the drive like literally blew me away. I have it written down here. I have a picture here. This was our second drive here. Look at this. The first drive, we donated 140 pairs of leggings. This is our second drive that we did in 2018, or 2019. So far, our first 3 years, we've donated over 450 pairs of leggings to kids and families affected or on the spectrum. And the reason I wanted to do leggings is because Dante would wear them to bed, because he loves the way that they would make him feel. You know, he loves just the feel of them. He would rub my legs when I would have them on. So the very first time I put them on him for jammies, and he just rubbed them and was like smiling, I was like, oh my God, like I need to share these with all the kids out there that are on the spectrum that have either sensory issues, and it's not even kids that are autistic. I mean, there's a lot of kids that benefit from leggings. There's some that have very sensitive skin and allergies that can only wear LuLaRoe leggings. I mean, there's just so many things. So I wanted to give back by doing that. So we give back to the CNY ASA. It is the CNY Autism Society of America. It is in, obviously, Central New York. I use the same foundation every year. We give them out during their walk. They do a walk. Obviously, with what's going on right now, their walk is supposed to be this month, but it's postponed until October. So I will be holding on to the leggings until October, but I will be donating them and giving them out at that walk, which will be in October. I know it stinks that it's so far away, but I'm just glad that they rescheduled it rather than canceling it. So the drive, how it's going to work and how it's always worked, is there is an order form that's in the description of the video. There's 4 different ways you can participate. First way is what we did every year. Is it was originally a legging drive. Okay, so you can click on the order form and you can order yourself a pair of mystery leggings. We have all sizes, doesn't matter what size it is. You can order yourself a pair of mystery leggings. Adults are 25 and kids are 12 and 14. And then I donate a pair for every pair that you order. Okay, so that's like option number 1. Option number 2 is we added the tank tops last year. So you can do leggings and or tank also, which will give you the custom logo that we had made here. They are LuLaRoe tank tops. Okay, they're actually LuLaRoe tank tops. They're same price. They're $25. So same thing for every tank top that you purchase. I will donate a pair of kid leggings. Same thing, option 2. Option 3, if you don't like leggings or you don't like the tank tops or you're just not into, I guess, wearing Lula, but you want to participate, you can actually purchase kid leggings to donate, and I will match that donation. That's also on the order form. So if you want to say, like, buy a pair of kid leggings, they're $12. You can go ahead and purchase a pair, you can donate it, and then I will match your donation. However, shipping and pickup won't be available until after the items are printed, which will probably most likely be the second week or so of April, because the fundraiser is going to run from today until April 8th. Okay, so today until April 8th, and then I bring all of the items to my local guy. He's going to get them printed, and then we'll get them packaged up, we're ready to go, and then I will tag everyone who has requested to pick up that your items are available for pickup. And then as shipping will just ship when they're ready. Whew. I made it, you guys.